Hello and welcome to another episode of the Hooligan Report. I'm your host as always, SM, and joining me today we have Bojan.
Hi guys.
And we also have Cruyff.
Good morning.
And we'll probably start with you, Cruyff, because your namesake sadly passed away overnight. We received the news last night. And so I wanted to get both of your thoughts on his career and his impact on football, because personally I never watched him play, but I think everyone knows his name because of just the fact that we have the Cruyff turn. And when you're a player who's good enough to actually have a manoeuvre in football named after you, it really says a lot about your standing in the game. So I'll start with you, Cruyff, and your thoughts on his career and his impact on football.
I mean, if you look at what he did as a player alone, it's enough to drop your jaw out. But to do it again as a coach, it really says something else. And I mean, as I said in my post in the thread, he won 3 European Champion Cups in a row with Ajax. Then he went to Barcelona, where they were second last, won them the league from there. They didn't lose a game once he played, won them the league. He with Holland, part of Total Football, got them to the World Cup final along with the help of other players in the team and Rinus Michels. And I mean, then of course he retired and coached Barcelona to the first Champions Cup, playing the way he thought football should be played and the way it was played under Rinus Michels, and really revolutionised Barcelona to how they are today. And I think without Cruyff, there wouldn't be Messi, Xavi, Iniesta, that sort of thing. And I mean, no Guardiola either. And I think Guardiola would have had looked at Cruyff for a big inspiration in how he sets his teams up and the way he plays football. And it's just a massive loss to the football world with another legend passing. Definitely an all-time top 5 player, in my opinion, the most intelligent player ever. And I don't think anyone would really disagree with those comments.
And I think you mentioned Guardiola, and I think it was Guardiola who said that Cruyff basically built Barcelona, and that every manager who has been there since has just sort of redecorated or renovated what he did. So he had a huge impact on that club.
He built the cathedral, and it's up to the others to renovate it.
Yeah.
But I mean, he had so much influence on the way football was played in general, and it's obviously the way it's played now, particularly at Barcelona. And it just a testament to the sort of footballer he was to be so influential, I think. And I mean, I'm still in a bit of shock, to be honest. It's quite sad. It was quite sad waking up to that news and hearing that another football legend has left us.
Bojan, what are your thoughts?
Just the biggest compliment I can give Johan Cruyff is that his impact being felt in world football, 30, 35, 40 years after he's retired and obviously passed on. And one thing that I've always liked about him and the football that clubs he's impacted has played is that he's always prioritised the style of football and the way football is played ahead of the end result. He'd rather play beautiful football and draw or lose than play turgid defensive football and win 1-0. And I think that is important, and the fans of the clubs that he's been at previously demand that. So, fantastic player. I think he won 3 Ballon d'Ors as well.
Correct.
If I'm not mistaken, and they don't give those out too easily.
71, 72, 73.
Back to back.
Yeah.
Happy with that. A honest, elegant, beautiful footballer. That's really all I can say.
I think I saw a quote from him where he suggested that he was in a match where they were winning 4-0, and instead of trying to score a goal, he tried to hit the crossbar because he thought that would be more entertaining for the
fans. He had a very arrogant flair about him, and I guess that quote sort of says that. But I mean, I saw an interview, I would have been 10, 15 years ago when I was a teenager, that his brain thought too fast for what he wanted to do with his feet, and he often had a lot of trouble dealing with that. But I mean, you can see how intelligent he was off the ball and seeing things that a normal player wouldn't see, and the things he could do. I mean, there's a phantom goal he scores for Barcelona. I don't know if you guys have seen it, where it's crossed in at the far post and he leaps probably 3 or 4 feet in the air, and guides in with the outside of his foot. It's quite incredible, really.
He went back to Ajax about 2 or 3 years ago. Brought in, I think it was Philip Cocu, Marco Mars, and Edwin van der Sar, basically to take over the running of the club, and he was there in like a consultancy/director of football role. And he was there for a couple of years, and ever since then, the Ajax Academy has just been reeling off talent. Unbelievable talent coming through. They haven't been able to keep a hold of a lot of it. A lot of it's being poached by English and European clubs. But, his impact is still being felt at Ajax today.
Yeah, so our thoughts are with the Cruyff family, and it's obviously a huge loss for the broader footballing community. But we will move on now to slightly brighter topics, and we'll talk about the round of football fixtures that we had last weekend. And obviously we've had an international break this weekend, so we'll be previewing the fixtures after the international break. But we'll start with Leicester's win over Crystal Palace, just because the Leicester train just keeps chugging on, and it's just simply incredible. And it was their two main men involved in the goal, Mahrez and Vardy. So what were your thoughts on the games, Bojan?
Yeah, well, I thought Palace are pretty stiff, to be honest, and they've been playing some really turgid stuff recently, but they came out against Leicester and really tried to win the game. They were pretty unlucky, but at the same time, they didn't take their chances, and I think it's fair to say that Leicester took theirs, so they deserved the points.
Right.
I mean, yeah, as you said, the Leicester trend keeps chugging on, so it will be hard to stop them. And I mean, I'll quite gladly wear the egg on my face where I said they'd drop off. But I mean, as Palace are just a shadow of the form themselves of what they started under Pardew, and I think question marks need to be put over his head if they keep getting the results they're getting, or not getting the results rather.
So they remain the only side in the top 4 tiers who are yet to win in 2016. So we raised it on the podcast, I think, 1 or 2 podcasts ago, about the possibility of getting sucked into that relegation battle.
I think that's quite a damning stat. If they're the only team in the top 4 tiers of football to not win this year, that's a big indictment on Pardew and something that needs to be looked at thoroughly, I think.
So do we see them getting sucked into the relegation battle?
I don't think they're as bad as the teams below them, and they actually have quality players. It's just that whether it's injuries or whatever, luck, things like that. I don't think they're that bad when you look at your Aston Villas and your Sunderland sort of thing.
And Bojan?
I think they've got a really tough. I think they have a really tough run to close the season out. But I think they'll be able to just accumulate enough points to stay safe. And not that I'm intending to segue onto it, but watching the Tyne-Wear derby, there's not a lot of quality there. So I don't think they'll be under too much pressure from below.
We'll touch on that Tyne-Wear derby in a bit, but we'll go to the Arsenal-Everton game now, Cruyff. And we discussed this, I think it was last week with you on the podcast, or else it was on the board with you suggesting that it was going to be very tough for you guys to get the win against Everton. And you did it relatively comfortably in the end, with Welbeck and Iwobi scoring.
I was pleasantly surprised and gladly wrong. So I mean, it was nice to see us actually stand up and put in a performance that we are actually capable of, and not bend over and just be bullied by particularly a bigger forward in the shape of Lukaku. I thought we played very well. Though Everton were quite poor, which I don't think anyone would disagree with either. I mean, if you look at the way Welbeck's goal was taken, the setup to that was absolutely beautiful. Nice running off the ball and good one-touch play. And Iwobi's Bellerin's ball to Iwobi. So if West Moira was caught out, he did take his goal quite well for such a young guy.
That was only your 3rd away win in your last 10 games. So I think if you are to pick up your form, that's where you're sort of struggling at the moment. Would you say that the title race is out of your grasp?
Yes, I think we'd have a 0.0001% chance of winning from here. I think it's it'll be Leicester or Spurs. I think Spurs are in with a with a mighty great shout. I think it would be very foolish to write them off.
And then now, what were your thoughts on the game first of all, Bojan?
I thought I was very impressed by Danny Welbeck's performance, and I was impressed by his movement off the ball, which was fantastic, and the run he made for us was beautiful, in between the centre halves behind the defence, and I was very impressed with Elneny and Coughlin as a partnership. I personally didn't think it would work, and thought it would be very un-Vendor-like to do it, but they just shut down everything
stagnant, I guess.
And Barkley didn't get near it, and got the job done and really looked troubled. So it was a quite impressive and mature performance.
Just on Welbeck, I think that even though he does waste a lot of chances, he is a sort of guy that never gives up, and he has that winning mentality, which Bojan did mention a while back on the board, that he's Fergus, that mentality from Ferguson where never give up, play to win, always give your all, and I think we need more players like that. We need players with his mentality and his drive and whatnot.
Yeah, definitely.
I know you're probably buzzing to talk about it, so we'll talk about the Manchester derby now, Bojan. And Marcus Rashford is just living the dream at the moment, because he's now also the youngest player to ever score in a Manchester derby in the Premier League. What were your thoughts on the game?
5 goals in 8 games. He is on fire. And
is he? Will
can you
he get a
imagine
Euro
going in? It's Roy Hodgson. Who knows? If it was Sven, definitely.
But I don't think it's that unfair of a call, really. I mean, he's.
Oh, I think it is.
Well, who did Kane, Vardy? Who else did they take?
So
Walcott
Kane,
will
Vardy,
go, but he shouldn't.
Sturridge.
Well,
Welbeck probably.
Oh, Sturridge, yeah. Welbeck, yeah. I guess maybe it is a bit premature, but I mean, the way he's going, if he keeps his stuff, he can be a stalwart in the English team for years to come.
I mean, unfortunately, Argentina aren't in Europe, so you can't just play on Demichelis every week. But yeah. But can you imagine going to school on Monday after that, after scoring the Manchester derby as an 18-year-old? Unbelievable. But beautifully taken goal. Mata didn't, he got an assist for it, but really he just played it into Rashford's feet, and Rashford did all the work for it, and he just ran tirelessly all game. Morten Schneiderlin was superb. Chris Smalling as well was a rock against Aguero. Really didn't give Aguero too much space. De Gea, his usual self, and a bit of a cheeky throwback performance by Michael Carrick, his best game for quite some time. He hasn't been offered a new contract yet. They're waiting to see if Mourinho wants to keep him or not. So it'll be an interesting decision. And although it's not strictly tied to this game, Bastian Schweinsteiger's torn his MCL, so he's out for the season. So we're going to be pretty light on from here on out, I think. Yeah, we're not sure if he's going to miss the Euros or not. In terms of Man City,
sly little laugh.
Well, I wrote them off before they beat Villa. Not in that game, but just not kind of trying or caring, and I kind of stand by that. To be honest, nothing I've seen has changed. There's a few guys in there that care, but there's a lot of guys that are just picking up their paycheck and not doing too much work. Oh, and also in the derby, how Michael Oliver, that absolute bottler that goes to water every game, didn't give a penalty against Demichelis taking out Rashford was unbelievable.
Yeah.
He bottled it like he bottles everybody's decision every game.
Just on Marcus Rashford, if you were to compare him to a level of player today, where do you think he'd rate in 10 years? He's what, 17 now?
He's 18 in 100 days or something.
Okay, so let's say when he's 25, 26, who would you compare? What level of player today would you compare him with if you think he reaches his potential?
With a player, well, I can compare him to kind of past players he reminds me of.
Yeah, well, not so much just so
He
much
reminds
not
me
that he reminds you of, but just
He reminds me a little
just
bit
the
of
level you
Sturridge,
think
to
he'd
be
get
honest.
to.
He reminds me a little bit of Sturridge with the way he plays, with that pace and skill.
Nah.
Really?
I reckon he's more a combination of a young Michael Owen and
But
with
do you
a
think he'd get
sprinkling of Patrick Kluivert.
Do you think he'd get to the level of Owen? That's what I sort of mean, not as in who he reminds
Oh,
you of.
okay. Do you think he
What
can,
sort
like,
of
fulfill
level do you
his
think he will get
potential?
to of a player that's playing today, sort of thing?
Well, one thing he's got going for him is that he's hardworking and is known to be very shy and humble. So I think he will be able to, given the right... Hopefully Jose keeps him around. You know,
Sends him out on loan.
given the right environment, I think he can mature into a very high quality forward, perhaps at a similar level to... I expect him to be at Anthony Marshall's level if everything goes right in about 2 years' time.
Yeah.
Put it that way. But he's really come out of nowhere. It's kind of a similar situation with your boys and Iwobi. Sometimes you got to throw these guys with bags of potential who aren't refined. They're rough diamonds in a lot of cases. You got to throw them in the deep end and see if they can handle it. And the ones that sink, you get rid of, and the ones that swim, they can be 10-year players for you. And that's really the difference at the moment between...
I was quite surprised that Iwobi started against Everton because he looked quite underwhelming in the Cup because I think he played both games against Hull, but...
I think he was good against Barca, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was
what got him I think that's what got him the start and the sort of the faith.
Well, we'll just on Man City's poor form that you were mentioning before, Bojan, they've now lost as many home games this season as their previous 4 combined. So they are in quite some rut at the moment.
I think with City, they shouldn't have announced the Guardiola thing because, I mean, what are they playing for this season? What's Pellegrini got to play for? Nothing. He's not going to be there. I mean, unless he wants to go out with some pride and his head held high. But aside from that, what does he have to play for? He's not going to see any work he does from whenever Guardiola was announced to next season. He's not going to see any of that come to fruition. So it's sort of like why am I even bothering?
Well, one scenario that got suggested to me, which I thought was quite interesting, was what happens if Man City play Bayern Munich in the Champions League final? Would Guardiola potentially tank the game to ensure himself Champions League football next season? It'd be a very interesting matchup. Yeah.
I don't think he would, but I mean.
Oh yeah. It'd be very
It'd
interesting.
be an interesting question though. A very interesting.
What I find really interesting is that Man City tried very hard in that League Cup final. They're trying very hard in the Champions League, and they're not trying at all in the Premier League. I find that very kind of, So I don't think we'll get to that Champions League final between Bayern and City. In fact, I don't think either of them will get there. But should also add that no one's really mentioned the possibility that Guardiola may not work in England. Like it might not work out for him here.
I think he's too
because I'll tell you what, this
not to
squad,
succeed.
Hear me out, mate. He stays everywhere for 3 years. All the top coaches only stay in one place for 3 years. There aren't any more Wenger, Ferguson types out there, and he's going to need. I mean, as much as they've got quality in that side in that squad, there's a lot of he's going to need about to get a proper play his football. You're talking about 5 to 7 first team players need to change.
Well,
to play Guardiola football.
I think he has. If let's say he signed Isco, Pogba, and let's say Laporte, for instance, just those 3 names as an example. The players City have are still very good. When you look at Silva, De Bruyne, Aguero, Nasri to an extent, Navas can play when he wants to. I mean, it's Fernando's not
Navas
poor.
won't be there, mate.
It was just an example.
Fernando
But,
won't be there.
and Fernandinho's not a poor player, but I mean, he does have good players there currently. It's whether he can get them to play with him, which I think he will, because you'd be stupid not to want to play Pep, if it will work or not.
I have my doubts due to the age of that squad. It's a very old squad. I think I'm pretty sure it's the oldest by far in the league. It's like over half their team on the weekend. So yeah, in the derby we're kind of 29, 30 or over. I mean, Touré's not there. You probably need 2 new fullbacks. It's looking like they're going to sell Mandala. So you got a new centre half brought in. I mean, I think it's going to be. I'd be surprised if they blitz the league after replacing 6 first-team members of the squad and playing a new system. I actually think, unfortunately, the jump from a team next year is probably going to come from Liverpool after a pre-season under Klopp more than it's going to come from Guardiola. But clearly, in like his second, third season, I can see success in Man City.
I was going to suggest, I mean, the idea that Guardiola wouldn't succeed in England or wouldn't hit the ground running is one that we've already sort of seen this season, because Klopp was appointed by Liverpool, and I think there was a lot of people who thought that he'd kind of hit the ground running and get that side playing quite well quite quickly, which of course is quite difficult to do when you're playing a completely different style of football and require a different sort of player. So I do completely agree with that point that Guardiola might take some time to settle in for City. There was one final game to touch on, which was the other derby of that night, which was the Newcastle-Sunderland derby, and it was a game that neither side could really afford to lose, and in the end neither of them did lose, but it really doesn't help either side to draw that game, especially with Norwich having won against West Brom earlier. So with Norwich sort of starting to pick up a few points, is this almost suggesting that both Sunderland and Newcastle could go down? Cruyff?
But I'd love Sunderland to go down. They're just one of those nothing clubs, and I think a lot of people on the board share that point of view. How many? They've survived relegation 3 or 4 years in a row now, where they've been in the relegation and just gone on a run. I mean, I think 2 or 3 years ago they beat us, they beat City, they beat United, and I think they beat Liverpool as well, all in a row in the space of 5 or 6 games. And you think what needs to happen for Sunderland to be relegated? But their time might actually be up now. Good riddance. But I think Newcastle under Rafa, if he'd come in, say, January, they'd be in with a bigger chance. Now I think time's actually very tough for them. They might grind out a few wins, which could be important, but the odds are stacked against them.
They could both fall. I mean, with Robbie Brady starting to bang them in, mate. Yeah. Newcastle and someone could both go down. Well, one thing I found interesting about this game, the Conway derby, was I remember for a long time when he was at Liverpool, Benitez had a problem defensively at set pieces and doing the crosses because he went to a full zone. He refused to for his defenders to man mark players. And Sunderland were just pumping in the box and were having an absolute field day. So if Benitez continues, he's obviously brought in, actually, to be fair, I can't tell if Newcastle's defenders are just that terrible, or he's gone to a zone straight away that they were getting absolutely abused. And it was only really in the second half Newcastle that came into the game, and it was a great finish by Mitrovic. Great finish. I would like Newcastle to stay up.
It was a well-created goal by, was it Wijnaldum who made that run?
Yeah.
He'll be a player that
I think it was.
If they go.
So it was a fantastic goal, and I hope Newcastle can stay up. But I am starting to feel like it's going to be Newcastle and Sunderland that go down together, which will mean that a lot of these players that have actually shown something since Benitez has got there will get poached, and who knows where Newcastle go from here if they go down.
It's going to be very interesting in the Championship next season if Newcastle and Sunderland go down, because you'll have the Tyne-Wear derby in the Championship and you'll have Villa with their Birmingham derby as well. So I think there'd be some very big derbies in the second tier, which would be quite amazing to watch. Cruyff?
I was just going to say, if Newcastle do go down, I think quite a few clubs will all over Wijnaldum.
Oh, I think it's West Ham that's been linked to him as a replacement for Victor Moses.
And I think that'd be a fantastic signing for both player and club.
So we'll move on now and chat about the next set of fixtures, where there are some interesting games with a bit of repercussion at both ends of the table. The early game has Chelsea up against Aston Villa, and I think, obviously, Chelsea will 99% chance that they'll win that game, and I think that would basically mean that Villa have been mathematically relegated. If Norwich can pick up a point against Newcastle, or even get the win, I think that would basically mathematically relegate Villa. So we're starting to get to that point of the season where sides are starting to run out of time. What went wrong at Villa? I just in a few words, what do you guys think went wrong with Villa, and how have they gotten to the point that they're at? I'll start with you, Cruyff.
I can just give you 2 words: Randy Lerner.
Yeah.
I mean that's the issue with that club, the chairman, Randy Lerner. I think it all stems from him. Like Mike Ashley at Newcastle. If both clubs had better chairmen, there is no chance they would be in the position they are both in today. And I mean, who was? I don't know. Lambert was never a good coach and should have been sacked much sooner than what he was. But even Remy Gard, I think, came out and said there's not enough money available to strengthen the squad and things like that. And I don't think they've helped themselves in the transfer market at all in terms of who they've signed and things like that. So to me, it's the chairman, the Salt. He's the main culprit in all of this.
In a few words, they sold their star striker and their club captain. They didn't really have an identity to begin with, and they lost it after that.
In fairness to them, did they have much choice? Because I think Benteke had the release clause, and I think Delph basically... I don't think that was a club decision to sell Delph.
Release clauses don't matter. Just ask Liverpool.
I'm not saying that, you know, they had a choice or didn't have a choice, but any club that sells their club captain and their star striker, and then, you know, you're saying they have a choice but don't adequately replace them with a striker or club captain of equal value, is going to struggle, and they were struggling last year as well.
Yeah.
I think that's the issue as well. I mean, if you get £32 million for Benteke, surely you spend that wisely and strengthen the squad in a few places where it needs strengthening. I mean, I don't know who they bought. I can't remember.
They've brought in Jordan Ayew, who I think's looked okay for them.
Oh, he's done all right. You give him that. But I mean, £32 million.
Guys like Lescott and stuff, yeah.
See, that's a silly signing, I think.
Top Sinclair, was it?
Sinclair, yeah. He looked okay for a patch at the start of the season. Sinclair.
That's what he does, mate.
Yeah.
He looks okay from time to time, and outside of that, he does nothing.
And Richards as well hasn't been great. And I can't believe Richards is their captain, which is, I guess, goes to your point, Bojan, about not adequately replacing the captain. Which is going to be sad because I mean, Villa have been a mainstay of the Premier League, so they're one of those bigger clubs. And you just look at where they were 5-6 years ago, when they had Gareth Barry, Milner, Agbonlahor, Ashley Young, all in their prime, and they were quite an impressive side under Martin O'Neill.
That's what they were good under O'Neill, and then I think he had an argument again with Lerner, and he said, "All right, I'm going," and then look where they are today.
Yeah. So I guess we'll assume that Chelsea will win that one. So I'll move on to the next game, which is Arsenal up against Watford. It's probably a game that you really do need to win, even if the title race is out of your reach, just to sort of shore up that top 4 spot, Cruyff. So how do you see this one?
I think at home it puts us in the driving position, and if Iwobi starts again, and I'd definitely be playing Welbeck up top, providing he's not injured in the international break. I think his movement off the ball will cause Watford problems, and if we play to the level we're capable of, I don't see why we wouldn't walk away with 3 points. But at the same time, Watford have Deeney and Igalo, who might cause us problems at the back. So they obviously need a chance, but I think we'll go away with the 3 points.
I'd give Watford a small chance, but I'm fairly confident Arsenal will get the win. Igalo's looked, I've mentioned it before, I think he must have like a 15 or 20 goal
Clause.
bonus structure there where he gets like 5 or 10 million or something, because he had that beautiful partnership with Deeney at the start of the year, all that interplay. Now it's very much one way. As soon as Igalo gets near the goal, he's very hungry at the moment. And that's kind of led to a bit of a drop-off in form from them, actually. So hopefully that's not the case and it doesn't continue. But regardless, if Arsenal play with Tottenham and El Neni in midfield again, I think they'll be too solid for Watford and they'll get the job done 2-1.
That's definitely our best midfield pairing, I think, them two.
Yeah, I think Arsenal will be too strong for Watford in this one. I think Watford as well don't really have a whole lot to play for now. They've kind of secured safety and there's not a whole lot of ambition to push on beyond that. So I think their season objectives pretty much been fulfilled already.
All credit to them, though. I mean, I think a lot of people had them being relegated, and to where they are and how they, I think they've played entertaining football over the course of the season for the most part, and all credit to them to where they are today and not being dragged into a relegation dogfight.
Another side that credit has to go to for kind of pulling above the relegation dogfight is Bournemouth, who I think a lot had written off as 20th for the season because of their stature as a club and the sort of players that they had running out for them. But they've also been very, very impressive, and they're on 38 points, so they're actually above sides like Watford, Swansea and Palace, who all were seen as better prospects for the season. So it's a commendable job from Bournemouth as well. And they have a home game against Man City. Now, that in some respects might be seen as a one-way traffic sort of game with Man City, but with the form that Man City's been in, it really could be a game that Bournemouth could actually end up winning. What are your thoughts, Bojan?
Mate, I think there's an upset on the cards.
What, City to win?
Yeah.
No, I generally think that Man City are susceptible down the flanks. I'm not convinced that Otamendi will be back to partner Manjala, and even so, it's not like they've been doing anything but stink it up all season long anyway, despite their reputations. And I think that Bournemouth, they showed that endeavour to attack down the flanks, and they're very direct. And one thing they have got, similar to Marcus Rashford, they've got Josh King, and he is lightning quick. And I think he'll be causing trouble for their defence. But with Aguero on the other side, I think I might go for a score draw, 1-1.
And Josh King, obviously an old United player as well, so they're cropping up everywhere, really. Cruyff, what are your thoughts?
Look, the way City are going, I wouldn't be surprised if Bournemouth took the 3 points. In all honesty, I don't think that's an unrealistic possibility.
Yeah, I think it's a hard one to call because City... Okay, but
sorry,
that's
but
right.
At the same time, City do have the quality to sort of put Bournemouth to the sword, but I guess Bournemouth have that work ethic and drive to win, whereas City, they have the talented players, but the talented players don't really want to work that hard all that often, which obviously is working against them this season. But as I said, I wouldn't be surprised if Bournemouth walked away with 3 points.
Well, it's hard to sort of think of tipping Bournemouth, but then you consider that City last went away to Norwich and got a 0-0 draw. So there is something in the issues that they're having on the road, and I could see a Bournemouth result here, and I think that they might actually get a score draw. I think I'm with Bojan on that one. In this one, maybe a 2-2 draw. A big game for the bottom of the table is Norwich at home to Newcastle, and you would think that if Norwich can get a win in that one, it really piles on the pressure for Sunderland and Newcastle to somehow pull out of that relegation battle. But it also really pulls Palace into it, because if Norwich can get that win, they're only 2 points behind Palace.
Palace have a game in hand, though.
Yeah, that's true. I don't actually know who that game's against, so it'd be interesting to see what that would mean for them. But do we see Norwich as getting the win in this one, or is this sort of the first game where Benitez can really look at for getting his 3 points? Cruyff?
Well, I don't think Norwich are pushovers at all. I mean, their table position might say otherwise, but I think they'll be looking to take the game to Newcastle. They're at home. They're above Newcastle. They can go in with a bit of confidence and say, look, if we get a win here, it gives us a bit more safety. And I mean, there's no reason why they can't win.
Oh, I can see Newcastle getting a late winner here and winning 2-1, I think.
Don't think Robbie Brady?
I said 2-1, mate. He'll do it in the score sheet. Don't worry about that. I'm just not sure they have enough, like, outside of him. I mean, Brady is a solid player who occasionally does things that top level players do. But there's really not that much around him, and he's afforded a lot of freedom because he has those occasional moments of high quality, but there's just not much there. So whilst they are reasonably solid defensively and in midfield, I just don't think they've got enough going forward. And, you know, this is Newcastle's time. This is Newcastle's time to do what they do, and Sunderland's time for that matter, just to pull it right out of the inner spaces of their rectums and pull out some jammy wins. So 2-1.
Just on that, if Norwich do win that, they play Palace next week, which will be a huge 6-pointer game.
Well, there you go. Yeah, that would be absolutely massive. It does seem that sort of time of the season where, you know, a side like Norwich will be going to the Newcastle game just thinking, if we can get this 3 points, it really pulls us clear of that relegation zone. But the result never seems to go to plan, and it does seem the sort of game where, as a result, I think Newcastle might actually manage to snatch the win. Stoke at home to Swansea is a game that doesn't really hold much significance at either end of the table, because I think Swansea are probably just clear of that relegation trouble now, whereas Stoke really aren't probably well enough placed to push for a top 4 or 5 position. How have we rated Stoke's season? Have we seen that as a success for them with the players that they've brought in, or is it more of a disappointment that they weren't able to push on more? Cruyff.
Where'd they finish last season?
That's a good question. I think they might have finished a bit lower than they are now, but I do think that they're close to a record points tally for the season.
Well, I think they can be happy with their season. So they've had some cracking games where they've played really good football, and I mean, look at the game against City; they absolutely tore them apart. So I think they can be happy with their season overall. I mean, they're in 8th now with 46 points after playing 31 games, but Liverpool are on 44 with 2 games in hand. So they do have the potential to slip down a bit. But I mean, I don't think they can be disappointed with their top 10 finish.
They finished 9th last season with 50 points. So I guess that's their aim,
Well,
to beat 50 points this year.
Well, they need 9 games to get 4 points, which I think they will do. So, I mean, I think they'll be happy. Oh, sorry. I think they'll be happy. They'll be happy with their season, I think, and they've showed they can play good football. And I mean, the Shaqiri signing's been a great one, and for a club of their stature, with all due respect, to get a player of his calibre in, says a lot about them compared to where they were, say, 3 or 4 years ago.
Well, they've had a up and down season that have been quite inconsistent. They've had their high points, like that game against Man City, where they just tore on a new one completely. But they've also had plenty of games which have been downers, or they've been missed opportunities. And maybe that's kind of due to Shaqiri not really picking up form until about week 10 of the season. So I think they've had a good season. They've probably met expectations. I think it's really exciting times there. That their owner is extraordinarily wealthy, clearly is quite comfortable, and especially with the new TV money coming in, to back Mark Hughes in the transfer market and actually have a crack at players you wouldn't think Stoke would be capable of getting. If they can keep, your Bojan Arnautovic and Shaqiri triumvirate going and add some more quality around them, they could be West Ham. They could be next year's West Ham potentially if they had the right players.
The interesting thing as well I find with these sorts of clubs is potentially to take that next step in terms of consistency and higher position as well. Not so much in terms of the quality of player to attract, but I wonder if they need that sort of core of players that really care about the club, because I think the worry is with these sorts of clubs, and you see it happen with clubs like Fulham in the past, where they can and Villa even now, where we've just talked about the fact that when you sell your club captain and don't have someone to replace them, I think I'd almost put as a priority for Stoke is really developing on that academy and really getting that academy churning out some decent young players who could come through and provide quite a solid core for the side for the next 5-10 years. Because I do think there will come a season, like Swansea have had this season, there will come a season where you will struggle, and that's when you need players who will actually have a bit of graft and a bit of heart and character to pull you out of it. And so I wonder if that's something that these sorts of clubs need to consider getting into the side as well.
Well, it'll be interesting what happens with Jack Butland in, say, maybe a year or two, he has another season like he has this season. Yeah. If a bigger club will come calling and whatnot. But, I mean, he's another important player that I think we forgot to mention. I mean, he's sort of dropped off the second half of the season, but his first half was spectacular.
Do we see him probably as the inevitable England number one after Joe Hart?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. By a streak. I don't know why people are calling for Fraser Forster. He's not that good. It's definitely Butland. Number two, debatably, some would say that he may already be number one. And the rumours have already started about potentially De Gea going to Real Madrid. And supposedly United will either buy Butland or Ter Stegen to replace him if it does happen. Which I'm not convinced it will. But if it does happen, yeah, Butland's on that short list. And there's not really...
When was the last time United had an England keeper? Like an England international?
Who we developed.
Right, okay. Oh, but as in your number one keeper, who was also England's number one?
Probably going back to the Busby days, mate, with that one.
Right, yeah. Because I wouldn't have thought it would be too recent, so it'd be quite interesting to see.
No, it would have been quite some time. It's been quite some... Well, I don't think we've had an English team.
Was Alex Stepney was Irish, wasn't he?
Yeah, Irish or Scottish. Yeah, he's going back a while. And really, can you blame United for not using English keepers?
Well, the ones you've had since the bloody 90s have been great for the most part. So no, you can't.
Yeah. Sunderland play West Brom at home, and that's another big game, which will be interesting because it's on at the same time as the Norwich-Newcastle game. So it's almost a mini final day in some senses for those sides because it's getting to that point of the season where results from other grounds start trickling into the ground while you're playing your match, and it can change the atmosphere of the game. A very important game for Sunderland to win, I would think. Do we see Sunderland getting the win here and pulling it out of that inner space of their rectum?
Oh, West Brom are what? They're 11th.
Yeah.
And so Stadium are light. I reckon it'll be a draw. Like crappy. There'll be crappy defending. Ball will get just plotted in somehow. It'll find its way to the back of the net. Be a score draw.
I don't think that Sunderland will have anywhere near as much joy from crossing the ball at set pieces as they did against Newcastle. Tell you who was fantastic in that Newcastle game though, that Kirchhoff. He looks like he's like the size of a centre half, but he's playing in midfield, kind of like Reece Oxford earlier in the season. But I actually fancy that kind of. I fancy West Brom here in an upset 1-0 win. Maybe a bit of Berahino magic.
Yeah, I kind of hope West Brom can get the win there and really stuff Sunderland's season down the toilet, because I would like to see them sort of finally go down. So hopefully...
Go down the toilet?
Oh, absolutely, the stadium of shite.
That was a stinker.
West Ham at home to Palace is a big game for Palace because West Ham obviously no easy beats and really pushing now for that top 4 spot with City stumbling. And if Palace were to lose this one as well, it really becomes quite concerning for them. As you've mentioned, Cruyff, they do have Norwich next, which would become a massive six-pointer for them. Um, West Ham at home, you should be expecting them to get the job done, I would think.
Yeah, I think at home, particularly against Crystal Palace, West Ham have shown that they do have quality. And I mean, if you look at Payet especially, I mean, he'll be hard to contain, and West Ham will be high in confidence, and Palace probably not so much. And being at Upton Park, it gives West Ham obviously the advantage, and I think they'd be winning that by at least 2 goals, I think.
Yeah, I can't see Palace having too much of a chance in this game. You know, Payet's just been selected in the Euro squad for France, so he's up and about. They just finalised the transfer of Manuel Lanzini for 9 million, so confirming that. So that was a loan previously. So, and he's been a terrific signing, a real find for them. And I'm pretty sure he's only 18 or 19 still, so
and it's
he's going to be a player.
He was playing over in the United Arab Emirates. Well, I don't know if he actually ever played there, but he signed in the United Arab Emirates on a 4-year deal. I think he's the youngest ever player to sign over there, so it was a really strange move for him considering he's come over to West Ham on a season-long loan and then signed on a permanent for them.
Yeah, you got it. Maybe maybe they're doing it at Chelsea. This club in the UAE, and they're just buying all this cheap Argentinian talent or whatever, and then trying to loan it through England, and then if one of them comes good, they make heaps of money. Who knows? But I think that those two are certainly up and about, and will be, some of the core of them going forwards, and basically until Palace start turning it around, I'm going to tip against them. So yeah, I can see West Ham winning this 3-0.
Fair enough. Yeah, I can see a pretty handy West Ham win in that one as well. The late game on the Saturday is a pretty decent game from what you read on the board. I don't know if you've been reading too much of it lately, Bojan, but Liverpool up against Spurs is almost becoming the title fight of the season. Liverpool at home, and the last time these two sides played was a 0-0 draw in Klopp's first game. But Liverpool fans, I'm sure, would absolutely love knocking off Spurs and really denting their title challenge. Spurs themselves, so they've lost one of their last 10 games and they've won the other 9, so they're in absolutely cracking form. And so they're doing all that they can to really catch up to Leicester. So do we see Spurs getting over the top of Liverpool here? I mean, Liverpool have a very good recent history against Spurs. I'll start with you, Bojan.
Well, this is a very interesting matchup for those that like the game from a tactical perspective, because you've got the gegenpress against Pochettino's, very high-pressing game, which is not called the gegenpress. I don't know what gegenpress is in Argentina. But, I remember watching a game not too dissimilar to this, where I think it was, might have been Spurs, it might have even been the Spurs-Man United game at the start of the year, and both teams set out high pressing, and outside of one own goal, it was pretty much fairly dire. And I think this should go the same way. But I think I'll tip a 1-1 draw here.
Never thought I'd say it, but I bloody hope Spurs beat them. Because I would love Liverpool fans to get trolled the shit out of after the way they carry on like absolute morons and lunatics. I would love for them to just be trolled relentlessly by guys like NFSB and Willstone Raider, just putting them right back in their box. But having said that, all bias aside, at Anfield does give Liverpool a huge advantage, and as you said, they do have a very good record against Spurs in recent history. So Liverpool, I would say, are the favourites, but the way the teams have been playing, I don't see why Spurs can't get a result, in all honesty.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting game, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's a pity that we've got this international break over the Easter long weekend, because it would be the perfect set of fixtures to really sink your teeth into on a Sunday night. But I'll have to find a way to. Oh, I guess it's the Saturday night, so it should still be okay. So I'll have to have a watch of that one. I do hope Spurs get up, but I can see Liverpool. I mean, Liverpool have had quite a decent record against the top clubs this season. They got the win over Leicester, and they got the wins over Man City. So their mentality when they play the sides in the top four is quite good. So I could see them getting a win in this one. They do have a good record against Spurs.
That game's actually on my birthday, so it's not I don't get a present either way, whoever it is. So I mean,
maybe a draw. Last minute terrible penalty to Spurs.
It probably will be after all this build up on the board. It'll be a disappointing draw, and be like, well, no shit will be flung.
Or it'll be, as Bojan, as you were saying, it'll be like that opening day of the season. There'll be a really dodgy, crappy goal, and then absolutely nothing else for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's a bit like the Leicester game, I suppose, the Liverpool-Leicester game, where they got the goal from Benteke, and then besides that, it was a pretty drab game. Speaking of Leicester, they do have the early game on the Sunday night against Southampton. Southampton haven't been travelling too badly, but they've also they've started conceding a few goals. I mean, they had the great win last time out against Liverpool that we didn't touch on, but Leicester, they somehow seem to be winning all their games 1-0 and just kind of eking through these games, getting the goal, and then sitting back pretty comfortably and not conceding. So it's a danger game for Leicester because of the way Southampton are playing, but I could see them just carrying on winning. Cruyff?
I agree. I don't see why Leicester won't win. I mean, at home as well, another advantage. They'll have the fans behind them. I think you've said several times on the board that the atmosphere at the King Power is the best in the league, and that's obviously going to help them get over the line, I think. And I think it'll be 2-0 to Leicester.
I will qualify. They do have the best atmosphere in the league, but they use those bloody cardboard clappers to generate a lot of that noise. When I'm at the footy and there's a little 6-year-old kid behind me smashing on the seat with a bloody cardboard clapper, it absolutely drives me insane. So I do agree that they do definitely have...
Mate.
Yeah. They do have the best atmosphere in the league, but it'll be good if they can get to a point where they can sing and chant a lot of that rather than bang pieces of cardboard on seats. But yeah, it'll be a very intimidating atmosphere for Southampton. What are your thoughts, Bojan?
Oh, I think Master Troll Ranieri will continue trolling Spurs with another 1-0. Preferably
I don't do the troll. My players, they play it for me.
89th minute, really dodgy penalty to Vardy. That's what I'm hoping for. Top that Spurs.
Yeah. And then the final game of the round, last but not least, we have United at home to Everton. It's hard to get a read on United at the moment in terms of how they'll perform. And Everton themselves, well, you have your games, you'll sneak out that 1-0 sort of victory, and then you'll have...
No, you're right. You're absolutely right, mate.
Yeah.
And, you're absolutely right. That's what I'm laughing at, how embarrassing.
And Everton are another one, though, who are really up and down at the moment. Conceding quite a few goals defensively, quite poor. So yeah, I'll start with you, I guess, Cruyff.
I think if United get their attacking movement right, they'll run Everton ragged. Because I think, as we saw in the Arsenal game, Everton were shocking at the back, absolutely shocking. And if Marshall has time to move off the ball with Marta and whatnot, I can't see. And Rashford too. Two particularly quick players there, I think they'll run Everton ragged. But on the other hand as well, I think United need to be careful of Lukaku. But I said the same for us, and I don't know if he even played against us.
Bojan, what are your thoughts?
Mate, I'm in the same boat as you, really. I don't know what United's going to turn up from week to week. You know, we forced ourselves into needing to win the derby after we lost to teams like Sunderland. So we absolutely battered Everton 3 or 4-0 at Jerusalem Park earlier in the year, but I could just as easily see us losing this game and being shocking.
Everton travel well, and I think that should be taken into account as well.
Our games are usually fairly high scoring, United Everton games. No, this is neither of us can defend at the moment. But I think they have got possibly the worst defence in the comp. Funes Mori is probably the worst defender in the comp.
Oh,
Even worse than your Mike
Mike
Williams of the
Williams.
world. No, he's terrible, mate.
So
I don't know.
Mark,
I think they're at the same level.
I don't know. I reckon Williamson's the worst defender I've ever seen.
I think he's out on loan at
Wolves
now.
Um,
I think he signed for Wolves on loan, and the Wolves fans are really happy to have him, and I just couldn't believe that they were excited to have him.
It's the first time he's heard his name being chanted. But my bloody Wolves fans. But yeah, I can see United just sneaking this 2-1, but being fairly unconvincing. As I said, Schweinsteiger is out for the season. Carrick's played a lot of games recently, so there's going to be a lot of reliance on Schneiderlin and the like to work hard. We might even see a youngster play with all that kind of build-up of games.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one to rate. I think United might sneak it at home, but then Everton. It's going to be a very interesting game. I think it could honestly go any of the three ways, because Everton could turn up and Lukaku bang in form and just crack a few goals in, or United could eke out a win. So, very tough one to call. Any final thoughts, boys?
Lukaku versus Blind is not the best matchup for us. That's for sure. Yeah. We're going to talk about transfers at all?
You can touch on transfers if you want. Yeah.
Well, Damasio has been saying that Alvaro Morata he's got a 30 million euro buyback at Real Madrid. So they're going to buy him back, but they're banned from buying players, right? So they can't register him. So they're going to send him straight to Arsenal for 50 million euros, pocket that 20 million euro margin.
That'd be nice.
That's what Damasio is saying. So Arsenal will finally have a high-quality forward for the first time.
How reliable is Damasio? Excuse me, Robin Van Persie.
You don't get more reliable than him, mate.
Robin Van Persie, he was a high-quality forward.
Oh, yeah, but you only had him for like a year and a half at his best, and he came to United for 2 years of better football.
Wow.
The other one that he's been saying supposedly, or this is time that there is truth to part of this, James Rodriguez is definitely fallen out with Real Madrid and he wants out.
Wow.
Shock there.
He's shitty with the band. He's not playing. He's someone off the bench for 20 minutes of the game.
Where does he go,
the word is Mendes wants to send him to United. They want the full 80 million euros back for him. Personally, I think he's overrated. And I think he's basically Mata, but very slightly faster.
What is he, 25?
I think it all came together for him during that World Cup. He's got a couple of streamers, but he's not fast. And, he doesn't kind of do a lot in the big games. So I don't really want him, for that much. But then the other one is United haven't offered Carrick a new contract, and Toni Kroos is available. And to be fair to Real Madrid and these kind of rumours, what they're doing is not working. They need to change it somehow. I was kind of surprised.
When have Madrid ever used logic? It's like Liverpool fans on big footy. They just don't go together. They don't work. They're not used in conjunction with each other. They cannot coexist in the same world.
Real Madrid are a club that basically try to emulate FIFA in terms of how they sign.
Exactly. Just one new toy this window, another new toy that window.
And then they have that panic where they think, oh shit, we've spunk all this money on pricey forwards. Let's get in a few defenders and.
It's all right. We'll just buy another one. It's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a few of those rumors going out, and what I'm secretly very vindictive and happy about is that with the success of Marcus Rashford, a whole bunch of Man City's under-16s are refusing to sign new contracts, so they don't think they're going to play in the first team. They don't think City will give them the opportunity, because they can see all these other players in the under-18s are not getting opportunities.
Which is interesting, because
it's their first professional contracts, and they're not signing. And the same with the Portuguese kid at Chelsea. I think it's Dominic Twinner or something like that. Twinner with a Q. He's stopped turning up to training. because he doesn't think they're going to give him a chance at the first team, so he's refusing to sign a new deal and he's just not turning up at the club anymore.
It's really interesting
Because
though,
they signed your first professional contract at 16.
with Man City. I would have thought the youngsters might be looking at Guardiola coming in and actually think that he'd be a good manager to have, because he seems to be someone who brings you through.
Well, yes, but, you know, they're going to need to be successful. Like, Pep's going to need to... He's not really gone there, I don't think, to build a youth system and that kind of stuff and transition players to the first team at the cost of results. I think they're going to go there and he's going to buy five plus players. I'd be highly surprised if he just went there and said, you know what, there's enough talent in the academy, we're just going to roll with this. So, yeah.
We'll try and blend it, I guess, but it will be interesting to see. Cruyff, did you have any final thoughts before we round it up?
I just think the footballing world's lost a huge and influential figure in Johan Cruyff, and it's sad that another legend has left us.
And Bojan?
Such shit, Man City. You mercenary 10-year-old piece of shit club.
Look at this, the jarring difference in the final thoughts there. Perfectly sums up the podcast. So thanks very much for coming on, boys.
Oh, and Liverpool can go and get stuffed.
No worries, mate. Cheers. Have a nice...
Thank you for having us.
No problem, and thanks everyone for listening in. We'll be back after the next set of games, so that will be in just over a week's time. So until then, hopefully enjoy the week off, enjoy a safe and happy Easter, and we'll see you on the forums.